Hello, I'm Mike Buchanan, leader of the political party Justice for Men and Boys and the Women Who Love Them. Elizabeth Hobson and I gave two talks at Cambridge University in May 2019. Elizabeth was our Director of Communications at the time, and she spoke on the history of feminism, while I spoke about equal rights for men and women. Feminist students, alumni, and academics tried to have the talks cancelled by sending an open petition to the Vice-Chancellor full of lies and misrepresentations about our political party. Our talks were almost drowned out by a large mob of howling, aggressive, and chanting male and female feminists. We labelled them the Cambridge University Noisy Twats Society. The acronym seemed appropriate. Earlier in the day, we were enjoying a quiet drink in the garden of a public house in the centre of Cambridge when two feminist students, one female, one male, threw milkshakes at two supporters and myself. Natty, my guest today, chased after, apprehended, and recorded on her smartphone the female student who had thrown the milkshake. The video we're about to play includes footage of the photographer of the incident who worked for the student online website Varsity. We know the names of those two individuals and the male feminist who also threw a milkshake, but we've declined to make them public. Natty, a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much for that introduction.
Before we come to the interview, let's play the video of the immediate aftermath of the milkshaking incident. It's 4.5 minutes of video gold.
Talk to me. Talk to me.
You won't let me go.
You just threw milkshake on my friend.
Go.
Did you throw milkshake on my
She
friend?
won't let me go.
What's your name?
She won't let me go.
Did you throw milkshake on my friend?
Go.
Did you throw milkshake on my friend?
Thank you, sir.
Did you throw milkshake on my friend? Dude,
Break it up.
I know you're stronger than me, mate. She just assaulted us. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the police. Call the police for me, please. Call the police for me. Call the police. Stay here. Stay here.
Please let go of me.
Stay here. You call.
Could you let go?
Call the police.
Please let go.
Could you let
She
go of
just
this lady?
threw milkshake over me. And
Right,
my
that's
friend
no
told
reason
me.
for assault.
Please
Let
let
go
this
of
woman.
her.
She just threw
Let
milkshake
go
over
of
me. It's
her,
assault.
please.
You're not allowed to like.
It's
discipline
assault.
others.
She's not allowed to throw milkshake over us.
Please, please let go of this lady.
No. Call the police.
Let go of this lady.
Call the police.
Please let
Call
go
the
of this
police.
lady.
You have no idea
Please
who
let
I
go
am,
of
do
this
you? Come
lady.
on. Call the police. Call the police. Call the
Let
police.
go of this lady.
Call the police.
Please let go of
What's
this
your
lady.
name? Call your police.
Please let go
Call
of
the
this
police.
lady.
Call the
Please
police.
let go of this lady.
Call the police. You're
Please let
stronger
go
than
of this
me,
lady,
and
yes.
that's not fair, but she's attacked me.
Could you let go of this
She
lady?
just assaulted me. Call the police.
Could you let go of this
Call
lady?
the police.
Could you let go of this lady?
Did you just assault us with... Did you just throw milkshake on us? Did you? Did you?
No,
Did you?
Stop assaulting her.
Yeah. Are you going to hold
assaulting
her?
her.
Are you going
No,
to
she's
hold
assaulting
her?
her.
She assaulted me. She threw milkshake on me and my friends and assaulted us, pushed us and ran away.
Violently towards her.
Okay? She is the
Okay, then
initiator.
call
She...
the police. Stop
Are you
assaulting
going to
her.
hold her? Are you going to hold her?
I'm not going to hold anyone.
Are you going to
I'm
let
just
her
going
go?
to stop you
Are you going to
from
let her go?
assaulting her.
Are you? I'm not going to assault her. I just want to hold her until the police comes.
Okay, then call the police.
So you need to step out of the way.
Have the police been
Step out of the
called?
way. Please call the police.
Okay.
Call the police. Have you called the police?
somebody
Anyone
call
called
the
the
police.
police? She has just thrown milkshake on my friend and pushed us and ran away because you're trying to run away and you just assaulted us.
You just tried to scratch me, grab my clothes.
You
and
assaulted us.
Please let go.
You
of me.
we have
witnessed this
10
lady
witnesses.
attacking her
No,
violently.
I stopped her. No, I did not attack her violently. Don't lie. I've got everything on video. This person came and assaulted us, and I chased her to catch her so the police could get her. You are going to be arrested for assault. Good.
Thanks for your commentary.
Good.
Thanks for your
Good.
commentary.
Look at your face.
Thanks for
Look at your
commentary,
face.
miss.
I've got it all on video.
Congrats, miss.
Okay. Do you feel happy
You
now?
guys,
Do you
sorry,
feel happy?
could you just make
Do you
sure
feel
she
happy?
doesn't attack her?
Do you feel happy?
They're not. She's not attacking. Yeah, not attacking. She's trying to resist.
These fucking stuck-up students in Cambridge don't know nothing about real life. You don't know nothing, and I'll be standing here until the police comes.
You're not going anywhere.
Right, your hand can stay there. I'm not moving
Okay,
until the
you
police
can't
comes.
leave.
I'm not moving.
Don't worry.
That's
I'm
fine.
not moving.
She's not going anywhere.
Okay.
It's fine.
Talk to me then.
Your friend filmed it already,
Stop
so I
filming.
wouldn't be too worried about him getting more and more aggressive. So,
You want to stand over? You're all right.
Listen, right?
Not going anywhere.
Just
Stand
stand there.
there.
I am standing here and I will shut up. No, Nikki, I'm not.
Natty, cops are on their way. Natty, cops are on their way. Just take another picture of Perkins' face.
Were you an accomplice in this assault? Did you know she was going to throw a milkshake in my face and my friend? Because you were just so happened to be there as a journalist, but you're an accomplice to a crime. Would you like to have your face on video? Would you like to speak to the police about it? Would you? Would you? Would you? Would you like to? Huh? Would you like to go and tell your trust fund mummy and daddy about it and they can get, oh, don't join Antifa, you're stupid. Go and get a job as an investment banker, not a journalist, they don't make any money anyway. Oh. Seriously, mate, are you an accomplice to an assault? You just so happened to be there when she threw milkshake at us and pushed us and ran away. Huh? All right, mate? Yeah? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? Am I a Nazi? Am I a fascist? Am I a fascist? You go to Cambridge University? Did your mummy and daddy pay for it?
Really harassing. She's just filming and asking questions.
Did you know that he turned up when she had the milkshake and took pictures of us as they were doing it? He's an accomplice to the assault.
Mate, do you just want to stand with your mate?
Bye.
Natty, I've watched that video so many times. It's the only video in our entire video collection whose duration I know. 4 minutes 32. Natty, can you take us through your recollections of the milkshaking incident?
Hi, Mike. So it's quite a while ago now, isn't it? It's going to be, I'm going to have to search the cobwebs. Well, I was thinking about it earlier today in preparation for this chat. So I remember being quite excited about this event, and because I'd never been to that area before, in that university, and I did think, you know, oh, this is going to be a bit spicy. There's going to be some silly feminists, and we can have arguments with them or whatever, you know. We could get some good content. But honestly, I did not predict what actually happened. And thinking about it now, it's not that surprising, because there were these milkshaking incidents with Nigel Farage and I believe a few other people.
And Sargon.
Ah, that was it, Sargon. How could I forget Sargon? Yeah. So, you know, it really shouldn't have surprised me, but it really was a surprise. But what I remember about that day is that my my babysitter pulled out last minute, and I rocked up to the pub with my toddler, which is just, you know, people who've met me before have seen my baby or one of my babies, and you know, I just didn't let that stop me from coming. So I brought him along, and in hindsight, probably shouldn't have. Yes, and so, you know, did these people realize that they were going to be causing so much trouble to people who brought children along to this event? I'm sure they didn't think about that in advance. So we're all sitting in the beer garden catching up, and Elizabeth was on one side and you were on the other, and I think I was on your side of the table. It was quite a long table, and there was quite a few people on one side and quite a few on the other. And I might get this detail wrong. Either I was on one side of the table and I moved just before it happened, or as it was happening, I moved. I can't remember exactly, but all I remember is that I was next to you when it happened, and some of it sort of kind of splashed on me, but it didn't really hit me. It was more you and someone in front of you, and I actually can't remember who that was. Was it it wasn't Elizabeth, it was someone else.
The photographer managed to capture the milkshake in mid-flight. Now,
yes.
Now you don't do that.
Part about that bit, yeah.
you know that took. I mean, I know a bit more about photography now than I did 2 years ago, and that takes some work.
Yes.
But the thing I absolutely love about that photograph is that so he catches the milkshake in mid-flight, but your head is in front of mine.
Yeah,
So I'm actually invisible in this photograph.
that's right. Yes, that's right. Exactly. That's what I was trying to say is I remember I was standing next to you, but I seem to remember being at one end of the table, and when it was happening, I'm suddenly next to you, and I don't remember at what point that happened. But either way, when he took the photo, my head was there, despite the fact that I didn't really get hit by it, but you did. And yeah, it was like this, like a wave. It was, yeah, it's quite impressive the way he caught it like that. I mean,
yes, it was.
But...
I mean, technically, it was brilliant. Apart from not having the person who was going to be milkshaked in the frame.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
One. Now that people have seen the video, Natty, one of the things that people won't know from the video is that you and some colleagues, because there were other supporters there that day, called the police asking them to come and arrest the woman.
Yes.
And I believe now this is central Cambridge. You know there's you could hardly throw a stone without hitting a policeman in the middle of Cambridge. But not one policeman came. I think after an hour. Is that right?
Yes. No, they never came.
Right.
They told me on the phone that after an hour they would come.
Ah, right.
But they never came. Yeah. So what happened at that moment when, just to go back, when you got milkshakes and Tom, the cameraman who was there, he got very furious about it, rightly so. And he decided to run after the assailants and he was shouting at them. And I remember standing in between him and the table going, my baby or Tom? Because I was very concerned about Tom and also thinking, what do I do? And then he started to run and then he fell over. And something just completely switched in my brain, and it really infuriated me that he had made an effort to catch them and that he fell over. That just really annoyed me. And I think that was what pushed me to just go for it. I just decided to run off them because I could see that. So the female assailant, and there was the photographer who was a male. There was another male who had a very Che Guevara-esque haircut. And then there was a very slim, very malnourished looking female, right? And I just made an assessment in my head in a split second and thought, I can take her. I can catch her. I just knew I could catch her because she just looks so flimsy. And so, not the guy I was concerned with, it was her. So I just went for it and I did catch her because I was correct. And she tried to run into some kind of either some university building or some halls, and there was like an arch. She went into the arch, and I have to say, Mike, I was furious. Clearly had a massive adrenaline load. People that know me I probably would describe this as going South London because I was just very like ready to fight, so unladylike. And then, but we're in a kind of dark corner. No one could see us. And I grabbed the hold of the back of her top. So I got my arm around her and I was like, you're not going anywhere. And to be honest,
she must have been stunned beyond belief at this turn of events.
Possibly, yeah. She was cowering quite a lot. And to be honest, I had a moment where I could have really just done some damage to her because no one was there. It was behind a wall. And I was thinking in my head, I could really go for it if I wanted to attack her. But clearly, I knew that I shouldn't do that. So I sort of dragged her round from the back. I had a hold of the back of her top and I just sort of dragged her around out onto the streets. And then there had been people sort of noticing what was going on. And there was a guy who was just sort of, I think she sort of knew him and she started saying, help me, or something like that. And then not long afterwards, university security turned up and then two people who were attending the conference. And then the most interesting part about this is this guy who is a philosophy professor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
University. You don't remember this part?
No.
Okay. So this
sorry, what I meant was I didn't know what he was.
Oh, well, he was a philosophy professor. Yeah. I think you know who he is, though, right? Because we identified him.
Right, go on.
I'm not going to say his name now, but we did identify him. He turned up too, and I think basically what happened is when I was running, the other guy, the other assailant, he split off down a different road, and
Terrified, I imagine.
I'm not sure, but he was probably, clearly that's what you would do if you're being chased, and I think she grabbed her phone. And she had managed to text that guy, or because I know she had her phone at some point, and I don't remember if she had the phone at that point, but either way, he knew to come back on himself. So he sort of turns up and then goes away again. And then suddenly the photographer's there, the philosophy professor's there. So like they sort of, how I guess it's a small area. So they can sort of go, right, where is she? And they must have turned up to find out where she is. And they can see me manhandling her, right? But I've got a hold of her and I'm not going to let her go. And I was just standing there saying, you threw a milkshake on my friends. Why'd you do that? And it was like very shouty. I probably sounded like a bit of a fog. I don't know. I was just really, really annoyed. And wouldn't let her go. And I said, right, the guy that she had managed to get to come and get involved to try and save her, you'll find this interesting, Mike. She said something like, please save me, please be a man and save me, or
I think it's something along the lines of
very chivalrous.
Yes, thank you, kind sir. This brave, feisty woman absolutely playing the damsel in distress card.
Yes, it was like he was a knight and he was supposed to come and save her, and she was like, it was just weird. I probably should have said to her at that moment, are you not a strong, independent, I don't need no man feminist? I mean, what are you doing? But
it was glorious. It was a glorious moment in a glorious video.
So so as you know, I had hold of her. I called the police, and then the two guys that were with us came and they called the police. And the security guard was just really bemused. He was just kind of like, I think he was probably thinking, I can't be bothered with this. He didn't take sides either way, but at the same time, he was also looking at me like, if you do something, I'm going to stop you. But at the same time, he wasn't quite on their side either. I guess that's what you want as a security guard. But at the same time, he was also not being like, I'm going to call the police and I'm going to make sure that she is punished. I think he just bemused.
Yeah, it's not a sort of situation that you get trained for, I guess, is it? But just staying on the police, they were nowhere to be seen when this howling mob outside the lecture building were stopping people, physically stopping people from coming in. That they were nowhere to be seen.
No, they were
just
not.
Outrageous.
I think I just want make one more point about what was going on when I caught her. The philosophy professor, he was very cagey. He refused to give me any details, and he was texting someone the whole time. And I was sort of eyeing what he was doing, and he was talking to the other assailant, trying to arrange a way or somewhere for her to escape. And eventually that guy turns up, and the photographer too, because I sort of cornered the photographer and I was trying to get his face on camera, and he was trying to hide.
You did that very well. I love that bit about Daddy's trust fund. That was golden.
It's just silly. It's silly. We did actually have a little bit of a discussion with her because we were there for so long. We had a bit of a mini debate about abortion, and a couple of other points, because she started saying things like, oh, you're just some horrible far right racist or something. And then I was like, no, let's discuss like actual points to do with feminism or whatever it was. And there was a couple of things that I actually can't remember right now, but they're on video. They're probably the parts that you would edit out, but there was literally like a 5-minute debate with her. And she, at one point, was kind of like, oh, you don't sound that bad. But then she really switched back to, oh, you're evil far right racist again. that was quite an interesting thing. You have to ask one of the other guys that was there about that if he remembers.
Right.
But yeah, so even though after a while she would have played the victim very well if someone else turned up, but for at least 5 minutes we were having a kind of somewhat civil debate, even though I had hold of the back of her top and wouldn't let her go. And then the security guard had stopped me, but he just wasn't letting her go either. But
Right.
at some point we all realized the police is not coming. She ran away and ran into her hall build and into her halls. And
you can only hope that she's still having therapy to this day.
I genuinely hope that she has stopped being vegan and has started eating some meat.
Yes, she could probably do with some. Of course, the police demanded that the two of them write letters of apology, which they did.
Yes.
I mean, which were just studies in comedy, really. And they had some minor fine, didn't they? Which they put up a crowdfunder for, so they didn't even pay the fines. But there we go. Okay. Thanks for that, Natty. Natty, how do you think the conversation regarding men's rights affecting our culture has progressed since 2014, which was the year of the first ICMI in Detroit, and also when I think you first came into the men's rights movement?
I don't know how many people will agree with me about this, but I think it's progressed significantly. I think that the online MRM and MRAs, everyone that you guys have spoken to or worked with or been somewhat affiliated with in some way or supported in some way, and all the usual suspects. I think that everyone's done a really good job and has influenced the culture more than you think. I personally think that, because the talking points that everyone was hammering back then over and over again, they are far more normalized now, just in generally. I remember, do you remember when Caroline Flack sadly killed herself? This is not a proper study, this is just an anecdotal thing that I noticed, but that whole thing infuriated me, and I'm sure it did you. However, I was observing the reactions on both sides to it, and there was a significant pushback from both men and women saying, wait a minute, this woman tried to stab her boyfriend in the middle of the night. Why are you guys fawning over with sympathy for someone? Sadly, she killed herself, but at the same time, she was a bloke. You wouldn't care that much in the same way. You would not be, making campaigns to try and get the media to be nicer to celebrities who are criminals. So even though that was infuriating, there was a significant conversation going on, I thought, I observed. And in general, I see other conversations going on. And I mean, I don't know if you are aware of this YouTuber called Kevin Samuels.
No.
Well, I mean, he's a black guy in America and he's catering to that audience. So that is quite far removed from us in the UK. However, he's still on YouTube, even though YouTube is YouTube. But he's having a bit of a moment, and lots of people are paying attention to him. And his generalized position, he is a kind of image coach who does all these call-in shows with women, and he used to do coaching with men, and he uses all the red pill talking points in terms of trying to get women to be less entitled, basically, and stop being unrealistic feminists and find a husband. That's pretty much what he's doing. And but his generalized position is that he is pro-men, pro-masculinity, pro-men's rights. He is aware of absolutely everything that MRAs spent years just hammering online and, at conferences over and over again. And I just look at someone like him who probably 10 years ago knew some of this stuff, but he probably wouldn't be so confident to come out there and just hammer, just reel off 5 points that everyone in the movement has been, saying for a million years. So what I'm saying is I can see some of the fruits. It probably doesn't feel like we've done anything at all, because things are not much better, legally speaking. But I think, but culturally, I just think that the main points are, they're sort of accepted as just not the norm, but as factual now.
It's a very good point you make, Natty. I mean, if I think back to 2014 or 15 at Speaker's Corner, the narratives around feminism being a toxic ideology and so on actually quite shocked some people. Today, if you say feminism is toxic, you're more likely to get, well, obviously, it's it's extraordinary how the general public has woken up to just what feminism is and men's rights and so on. You wouldn't know it from the mainstream media, of course. The mainstream media remains a huge problem. But you're right. The people have learned online, so much. There's no doubt about it.
Mm. So I suppose that's my answer to the question. And I mean, I personally, I don't have any hope about legal things at this point, because we're pretty much at the end of the road of our civilization. So, but at least we'll all sort of, die knowing that we tried. No, sorry, that sounds a bit too black pill there. No, but what I mean is that I think we could probably talk about this in a few more with another question later on.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that the people that should be the innovators, the ones who are the people that would probably do well in the free market if we actually had one. So people like the guy I mentioned and others who do stuff online, which is still relatively free, still just about, right? If we had a media where those people were able to rise and gain influence without these corporations and governments and international organizations who want to essentially destroy Western civilization, if they were sort of out of the way and there was room for newcomers, I think that we would see a significant amount of popular culture with anti-feminist rhetoric and pro-men's rights content.
I think you're right, Natty, and I think the day is coming when somebody works out how to monetize this stuff. To have a channel that tells the truth about gender matters, and who is not going to pay sort of £5 a month or something, for I don't know, for let's say an equivalent to Netflix that doesn't forever attack men, and holds women accountable and all the things that we all want.
Well, I that's what I'm saying. I think that if things weren't going the way they're going now, I think that would have happened already, or at least be building. Because I'll give another example. I mean, it's probably another American example, and I hate that they are both American, but Americans do tend to do these things first, at least in our current world. There are some content creators that my husband watches who are American. So there's a guy called Jason Whitlock from Outkick, and that other guy, whose names I'm going to forget, but if you have a look at him online, you'll see who I'm talking about. For example, they have openly said they want to start a new kind of more conservative style network, etc. And they will bring up the kind of men's rights, anti-feminist stuff, talking points all the time, right? And it's my opinion that it's people like that who, if there was room for them to grow, they would have grown significantly by now. Absolutely. I mean, the only person on American TV worth watching is like Tucker Carlson, for example. And Tucker Carlson brings up these points all the time, you know.
Yeah.
So
Natty, you've spoken at times about the impending Great Reset. Will the issue of women's agency finally be addressed during the reset?
So this is what I think I was referring to just now with my comments about the end of civilization. So, I mean, I don't know where the viewers are on the Great Reset and what's going on with COVID, pandemic, lockdowns, and climate change, and everything that's all rolling into one right now. But I don't think, I think the issue about women's agency is something that me and other women in my circles, like Elizabeth, have mulled over for a long time now. Unfortunately, I think that the long-term plan, really is to just mold us into a kind of weird androgynous drone. No, I'm serious.
I agree with you.
Dystopian film or novel, but that is essentially what they're trying to do. They want to reduce our dimorphism as much as they are able to, and so therefore, you know, no one's agency is going to be allowed to exist. We're going to be able to have agency on our new virtual reality universe that they seem to be trying to create for us. You know, I basically my summary about that is that once they've tried to do this, which is what's happening now, and fail, I think that is the point where women's agency will be addressed. And I have flitted between thinking that we're suddenly going to have a kind of fundamentalist, extremist religious response, and then we'll wake up and we're in Handmaid's Tale. That makes me sound like a feminist, but you know, there are elements of that novel that are quite interesting, because, you know, in that book they are responding to the fact that demographics have failed and everyone's infertile. You know, but what is very interesting is that when you see any kind of feminist analysis of the TV show and the book, or both, or whatever, is that they don't talk about the fact that even though a bunch of fertile women have been kidnapped and are forced to be giving birth and all this, that women were leading the fundamentalist movement. And also that working class men are just as downtrodden as they normally are in society in the book, and also not allowed to have wives. So when you look at it again, things don't change that much.
It's a dreadful time for working class men, isn't it? I mean, a couple of generations ago, Natty, a working class man could you know, earned enough to fund a stay-at-home mother and kids, and you know, I guess it's mainly because of the influx of women into the workplace. Middle-aged couples today struggle to do what working class couples did 50 years ago. It's the most extraordinary demographic shift.
Yeah, I know, and you know, I think that this has often resulted as well in working class men just having a poor selection of women to pick from, because the women that they may have married, I don't know, however many years ago when our grandparents were younger, they're not even looking at them.
No,
it's kind of like, oh, you're a builder. Ugh, you know,
yeah,
snobby about it.
Well, Steve Moxon in The Woman Racket, a brilliant book he published in 2008, talks about women becoming wedded to the state, or I think he calls it bureaugamy. And you know, and he points out that these women are mainly being, or a lot of these women are being funded by the taxes of men they wouldn't touch with the barge pole as potential partners.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's happened. And he was ahead of his time, because I think if people are talking about this now, like it's a new thing, but it's been building up for a very long time, as you know. So props to him, because he was ahead of his time with those comments, I think.
No, he really was. Which brings us nicely. I guess a lot of working class men today are incels. You recently interviewed Richard Orrit, an incel. Natty, could you explain just what an incel is, and who are the people who identify as incels?
Okay, so the term incel was created by like a sociologist. I don't remember when, but so they came up with this term, and it was originally referring to women.
I didn't know that.
Well, it wasn't specifically about men.
Right.
So that, I don't think people understand that the term was a kind of sociological term that was used, in these sociological studies and stuff. But now we all know what it's associated with now. It's just used as a way to bash men who are people deem as low status. But really, incels defined, well, if you have a look online, they're defined as someone, a man who has not had a relationship for at least 6 months and has not had sexual contact. So I suppose if they have had a romantic relationship, but that relationship has not had any sexual contact within it, then they're not an incel. It's the relationship part.
Ah, okay.
That is significant, I would say, because if somebody has sex with a prostitute, but they have not had a relationship, they are still an incel.
Ah, okay. No, that sort of makes sense, doesn't it?
And I know that a lot of people online would say that an incel is someone who can't get laid at all, and why don't they just get a prostitute? But they don't really understand that the definition of an incel is that they can't get a relationship and they haven't had one for at least 6 months. Now, that is that's an interesting thing that it's only 6 months, because I know I could probably have a whole list of people that I know that haven't had a relationship in the last 6 months. We're all incels. Not me, but I'm married, but like other people that I know, they're all incels, women included. So it is really interesting that it's now been adopted by lots of people, not just feminists, just as a way to bash what they deem as low status men. And now it's being used as a new bogeyman for the government to complain about, so that they can use it as an excuse to create yet more totalitarian rules, when someone who is less than 0.1% of the population goes on a kind of violent rampage.
Right, and we'll okay, and we'll be speaking about the Plymouth shootings shortly.
Right.
I had a lengthy, very heartfelt email today from a man in America bemoaning the gender pay gap in prostitution. He'd like to see that addressed.
Is he a male prostitute?
No, he's not. No. He just thinks it's about time we had a feminist campaign on the gender pay gap in prostitution, which I don't think will happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
Natty, in the light of the recent shooting in Plymouth, why is the government trying to label incels as domestic terrorists?
Because they are looking, well, first of all, the government is inherently misandrist in numerous ways, and I don't think I need to explain that to your viewers. But pretty much all of their policies are about destroying any power that the average male has. And it's not just in sort of the stuff that we might talk about, the feminist influence policies. It's above in pretty much everything, I think. So they're always looking for a kind of bogeyman group and a scapegoat to say, hey, look at these horrible bad guys over here. We need to come up with some new laws. So, you know, we don't want you saying that you hate women online or something else related to that. So it's related to the misogyny as a hate crime thing, I think, but it's not just that, because the way it seems to work now is that there's a crisis, some kind of crisis event, and they say, okay, well, we'll come up with some new laws, and they've already been thinking about them, but you know, they just capitalize on the event. And you know, the favorite group now to do this with are predominantly young white, although the majority of incels do seem to be not white, as Richard Orett has pointed out to me numerous times, who is my incel buddy, who I interviewed. And just, they are low status, often unemployed, disabled, or with learning difficulties, or just socially not very adept compared to their peer group, right? And because they are male, it's just very, very easy for the government to just step on them, demonize them, and not really address any genuine issues that they, as a group, may have, as you know. So yeah, that is why. But in terms of, I don't know if you want to talk about the Plymouth shooting yet, but I do have a very specific point about that.
Please go on.
Well, there was really interesting because this is, I think, just to do with that particular incident, although I don't think this is something that they're looking at in general about all incel incidents that they might label incel. But he had a registered firearm, right? He had a gun. And for any American viewers, you can still get, well, you could still get a shotgun license in the UK. It is still possible. There are over 1 million gun owners in this country, and most of them are farmers, probably. But I do know at least 2 people who have guns who are not farmers. And it's just a very slow, arduous process to get one if you wanted to, right? And clearly you can't use them like you can in America for self-defense and things, but you can. Over the pandemic and lockdown, they cancelled the ability to apply for one. And there was quite a few interesting bits when this Plymouth shooting thing came out, and they were talking about the fact that he was allowed to have a gun, and why did he have a license, and they were sort of mentioning that. And I thought there was an interesting link between them making an excuse saying, we're never going to allow you to apply for shotgun licenses ever again. And this incel terrorist incident in Plymouth is why. Just, you know, it's very interesting that came up. We're not America, but it was a very American Democrat-y type thing to do, I thought. And also the misogyny as a hate crime is still hasn't been passed yet, has it? But it's still being seriously considered, and any opportunity they get to push it, this one was taken up by. So, you know, Laura Bates was on Good Morning. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember.
Laura Bloody Bates. We've gone so far in this interview without.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I had to bring it up. The interview she did on Good Morning Britain after it was the worst thing I've seen in my life. It was, you know, she's so, I mean, she is evil. I mean, just, you know, I can't.
She has a child in a woman's body. I mean,
I'm not taking her agency at all, because she's absolutely evil. However, and I don't mind using that word. However, I did leave watching that thinking, I just want to take her home and put some SSRIs in her tea and give her a hug, you know, just be like, it's okay, Laura, like, we all know that you're crazy, and just, you know. But I was left, and maybe that's like my womanly, sisterly, gynocentric thing coming out, but at the same time, I might have felt the same if it was a guy like that coming. I don't know. That's quite interesting. I was left thinking to myself, why do I feel like this? But what I'm trying to say is that it was pathetic. It was so bad. And if I was one of the presenters, even though they are just like, you know, sold their soul to be on that stupid program, inside their heads, they must have been thinking, cuckoo, you know, because
Yeah.
it was really, really bad. Yeah. So be quiet, cat. So
You have an obedient cat. That must be a world first, a trainable cat.
Absolutely not. But yeah, but just to go back, you do know that since that incident that a senior police officer has come out and said this was not a terrorist incident, and this guy was not an incel, even though it was claimed that he was on social media saying he was an incel. And why have we done this? And this was in a Times article reported on this. Did you know that?
No. But I mean, these people, mass shooters, are frequently referred to as incels with zero evidence. Natty, our time. I come on to our last question.
All right, I'll try and be fast.
That's okay. No, we have a few minutes. Natty, what is your prediction regarding men's welfare for the future post-COVID lockdowns?
You know, this is the one I probably have to think about for a second. So in terms of men's welfare specifically, so I mean, we're in a position now where the kind of totalitarianism is going to reach a boiling point, and really, you know, 88% of men are homeless, right?
80. I think you mean 88% of.
Oh god.
We haven't quite got.
88% of the homeless are men.
Yes.
I mean, I know this is going to sound a bit weird, because it's going to get worse for everyone. In terms of the fact that they are trying to reduce our living standards. You know, this kind of green agenda stuff is going to make sure that working class men who have things like vans, and they have to get some new stupid electric car or something like that, you know, they're going to make life very hard for a kind of self-employed, bog standard trade type guy. But there is an interesting thing going on where during the lockdowns, people like lorry drivers, truck drivers, and tradesmen, actually their work significantly increased, and they've become even more in demand.
And I understand women are now applying to be HGV drivers, which amuses me no end. I mean, all you need to do to get women applying is to triple their salary, and they're interested.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's some paradoxes going on. Just if you're just looking at it from that economic angle, I think that men are reaching the breaking point now where they've had enough, and they're probably completely willing to step out of society, as we know with MGTOW and just me being around some of the anti-lockdown groups and stuff. There are significant portions of people who are just ready to just drop out of society entirely. And I actually don't think that it's going to get worse than it already is for men, in the sense that how much worse can it get for men specifically? Like, they've pretty much had everything taken away from them now. And I actually think what's going to happen now is it's women's lives that are going to get worse. And some of them may even reach almost the same point as other men. They've never experienced that before. No. I'm sorry to go, oh no, but what about the women? I don't mean it like that, because
I know
this is a natural consequence of what's going to be happening. You know, so I mean, I guess that's what I think really is what's going to happen. And then I suppose, as I said before, after this grand experiment that they're, you know, currently doing to try and get everyone to live in a weird androgynous VR life. When that fails, I've sort of flitted about what I think is going to happen at that point. But that is the point where I suppose men will be able to take hold of the reins and just make choices and take risks for whatever future they think we deserve. Because I don't know if we really deserve much at this point. I don't know.
Natty, thank you. We're going to have to wrap it up there, I'm afraid. Thank you for a most interesting conversation. It's been an absolute delight.
I hope you understand some of the references in that other, you know.
Of course, no. It's been very good of you to share all that with us, Natty. Thank you so much. And it's a wrap.